Hey Grayson, this is Mrs. Skoglund. Just wanted to give you a little bit of feedback on your summer assignment. So we're mostly going to talk about Chapter 2 since that was the question that you had starred, but I'll kind of reference some other parts of the project as we're going as well. So I'm starting off, the first thing that I look for in what we call like a body paragraph or this structure is a good topic sentence, and we want that ideally to answer the question and kind of preview what's going to come in the paragraph. So I think you did a pretty good job, Grayson, of having these topic sentences. Like this one, you answer why these have an impact because you say we need more creativity and emotion, which is totally right. That's why, we don't need L-directed as much anymore, according to Pink. What I would encourage you to do, though, is it took you 2 sentences to explain that, so try to maybe tighten it up a little bit and get that down into one. We want it just a brief, concise explanation, and then you'll move on into kind of the details. Next, I looked at actually the end of your paragraph for your concluding sentence. And I noticed, Grayson, in most of your paragraphs, you don't have this. Like this one has a second or a piece of commentary. Some of your other ones actually just ended with a quote. So it's really important to have that concluding sentence so that your reader knows, like, okay, the paragraph's over, right? And you can kind of just tie back to the question, like explain why it's important, that kind of a thing. But we definitely would want to go back and revise and get that in. All right, next I looked at your evidence, and I think, Grayson, I wanted to give you some credit because I do think you had some good quotes. The problem is, in a body paragraph at the sophomore level, we expect at least 2 quotes per paragraph, and in almost all your paragraphs I saw you just had 1. So that would definitely be an area for revision that you could do, is going back and finding more pieces of evidence to develop your paragraphs more. Unfortunately, that also affected your commentary score because you only had 1 piece of commentary to work with, not 2. One thing I also want to point out on evidence is a lot of times you have a quote just kind of hanging out as a sentence on its own, and we want to do what's called like embedding or integrating that, where the quote isn't just on its own, it becomes part of your writing. So even if it's something just as simple as Pink explains, L-directed thinking has blah, blah, blah. Okay, but we don't just want the quote on its own as a sentence. Let's see. Commentary. I think for the piece that you did have, you were definitely on the right track and not just totally like summarizing the quote. But what I would like to see more of is going back to the question directly. So when you say like engineers are having to work to find functionality and make it unique and appealing, why is that? Like go back to these factors and make that connection really clear. I looked next at conventions and citations. So your citation right here looked good, Grayson, but then I noticed in like some of your other paragraphs, like the period was before, I think in another you had some other issue, so it just wasn't very consistent. So I would encourage you to go back and fix those. And then I also, sorry, I was trying to find it, I looked at your conventions too, and I noticed just some occasional like apostrophe errors and things like that, so just would encourage you to go back and proofread and check for those. Our directed activities looked good. I wanted to comment on Chapter 4 because this personally spoke to me, and I totally agree with you that these kind of water bottles where you can't get ice in them drive me crazy. So I totally agree that was a great pick for your design chapter. Anyway, just wanted to give you some feedback.